blow this scene. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Friendly Jordies just beat John Barilaro in court. Or did he? Let's talk about it. So recently, John Barilaro sued Friendly Jordies for defamation over a few things that he said in a few different videos. I mean, take your pick. He said a lot of things that were very mean, very funny though, and also very valid criticism of an elected official. But John, as we all know, doesn't like criticism and apparently didn't even like being an elected official. So he's decided to cancel out both of those things by quitting politics and suing Friendly Jordies.
I am leaving politics.
Obviously, this was just a massive dick swing by a very rich person. I mean, it's very easy to beat someone with a defamation case if you have the money for lawyers and they do not. If you're a really rich person and someone says something that you don't like, just sue them for defamation. If they can't afford a lawyer, you're going to win. And it did look like that's what would have happened to Jordan if he didn't have access to a massive audience of loyal fans who love him, but also dislike John Barilaro, probably even more than they like Friendly Jordies. And he raised $1 million in a crowdfund for his legal defense for not only the defamation case, but also the criminal case that's against his employee, Christo, which we'll get into later. This defamation case went on for months and months and months and provided an endless stream of content for Jordan and a massive amount of merch sales for him and a massive amount of public support from just about everyone. There hasn't really been much of a major backlash against Jordan for this. Even people who are liberal voters, who don't like Friendly Jordies, a lot of these people are saying, look, I hate this guy, but suing people who are criticizing you for defamation is absolutely crazy for a politician to do. Freedom of speech is so important in this country, even though we don't have it written down anywhere. So when you see a politician suing a comedian or a journalist or autistic Warhammer YouTuber, whatever you want to call him, it looks very bad. Now, I've talked about this a few times on the channel, so I'm not going to go into the details of the defamation case. Let's just skip to how it's ended. According to Jordan's lawyer, John Barilaro has discontinued his defamation lawsuit, which is basically him quitting, going, I give up, I'm probably not going to win this thing, let's finish it off here and now. Jordan has had to pay $100,000 in legal costs, but no damages. That's a very important note, which we're going to get into when we have a look at who we think has actually won this case. Now, you might see Jordan paying $100,000 in legal costs and think, oh, well, that means that he lost. Not really, if you have a look at it. This is paying legal costs. So none of this money goes to John. None of it touches John's pocket. It just goes to lawyers. And the reason he has to pay is because he did lose a section of the defamation case, pretty much on a technicality. Now, John was suing Jordan for calling him vile and corrupt and saying that he committed perjury 9 times in court. Now, Jordan wanted to argue that this was true, because you can't sue someone for defamation if what they said is true. If you killed someone, and I say you killed someone, and everyone can prove it, and we all know that that's true, even though it's a bad thing that I said about you, if it's actually true, then it's not defamation. Defamation has to be like a malicious lie, something that's untrue. Now, Jordan wanted to use the truth defense to defend against this defamation claim, which is like me in high school going, no, sir, I'm not bullying this guy. It's not mean. I'm saying he's fat. That's just a fact. We can all see it. It's just reality. I'm not being mean by pointing that out. I'm just using my eyes and speaking what I see. But the evidence that Jordan wanted to use to prove that he was telling the truth when he said that John Barilaro was a corrupt con man, he wanted to use what John had said in Parliament. He wanted to prove that he'd committed perjury in Parliament 9 times in a row, which Apparently, it appears, some say, in my opinion, it looks like it is true. But in this country, politicians enjoy something called parliamentary privilege, which means things that they say in parliament cannot be used in court unless they allow them to be used in court. It's supposed to protect them from being sued for things they say in parliament. For example, if they're arguing against fossil fuel and they say fossil fuel is destroying the environment and then they don't care, these companies can't sue politicians into silence. Kind of a good law in some circumstances, but definitely can be abused in others, like, in my view, this. John is basically suing Jordan for something that Jordan said John said in Parliament, and Jordan wants to use what John said in Parliament as evidence to prove that what he was saying was true, but John is not letting him, even though he is suing him for what he said in Parliament. Does that make sense? Or is that fucking confusing? Let me demonstrate this with a visual example. Let's say one day I enter the magic box of no consequences, and inside that box I say, I've killed people before and I enjoyed it. I'm gonna do it again. But then imagine if a guy was watching the magic box of no consequences live stream, he sees me say that and then runs to the internet and types out, Lewis Spears has killed people before, he says he's gonna do it again. But then imagine if I sued this guy for writing that on the internet and said, I've never killed people and I'll never do it, and that is defamation. That's a lie. I'm suing you. Now, imagine we both make it to court and the judge looks at me and says, Lewis, what's your evidence? Well, I've never killed anyone and I've never said that I've killed anyone and I never said that I'm going to do it again, so I think this man is trying to ruin my reputation. I'm suing him for defamation. Then the judge looks at the other guy and says, well, mate, what's your evidence that Lewis Spears has killed people and has said that he's going to do it again? And then the other guy goes, well, Your Honor, I was actually watching the Magic Box of No Consequences live stream, and in there I saw Lewis say that he's killed people and he's going to do it again, so it's not defamation, it's just true. Now, the judge has to go back to me, the person suing for defamation, and ask me if I would like to let my opponent use the evidence that was said in the Magic Box of No Consequences, which will mean he'll win the case and I will lose, or I can just say, no, Your Honor, fuck that guy. I'm gonna use this to sue him, but he can't use it to defend himself. So that's basically what's happened, and I hope makes sense to everyone. It made sense in my head. I hope it makes sense in the video. We'll find out, I guess. I think in this situation, the parliamentary privilege has just given John an incredibly unfair advantage because he can sue Jordan for what Jordan said about what he said in Parliament, but Jordan can't use what John said in Parliament as evidence, so it's basically an impossible win for Jordan, even though if parliamentary privilege was waived, it would be fairly easy to prove. So that's why Jordan has to pay $100,000 in legal costs, but again, none of that money goes to John, none of that money goes to anyone other than lawyers, and that's basically all that Jordan lost on. He also has to apologize, which he decided to do through his lawyer, which is really great, you know? That's like making mum go up and going, my son's very sorry for what he did, but it never really happens. It's like a half apology. I love that. All it says is, Mr. Shanks understands Mr. Barilaro has been hurt and apologizes to him for that hurt. And that's it. He's also not allowed to sell any merchandise with John's face on it, which, you know, now that John's retiring from politics is fair enough. I guess once he becomes a private citizen, you can't really be put on merchandise. I think that's fair. And Jordan's made all the money that he was gonna make out of that anyway, so it's not like that's a missed opportunity for him. It's not like John Barilaro merch is gonna be selling in 2070. It's not an endless merch line. It's over now anyway. Speaking of Jordan not being able to sell those t-shirts, this is really a business opportunity for me. You know, like nowhere in that court case does it say that I can't sell John Barilaro t-shirts. Maybe I'll just put up my own designs and sell my own t-shirts. I mean, just wait for the cease and desist, sell as many as I can. You know, I'll give Jordan $2 a shirt, sell them for $50, that's fine. You know, that's a pretty good deal for him. He's not allowed to sell them. He should be grateful that he's getting a dollar at all. He's getting $2. That's twice as good as one. I reckon that's a gap in the market, guys. Loosespears.com. And the only other thing Jordan has to do is edit some of the videos, probably removing tiny little sections where he says 1 or 2 sentences about corruption, but the entire rest of the video can remain up. And you know how YouTube is. People will just re-upload it and see what was taken out. So look, those few things isn't the best for Jordan, But overall, no damages have been paid, so John gets no money at all. FriendlyJordies just had to apologize and edit a couple of videos, and the entire defamation case has been dropped. So Jordan really only loses 100 grand of the $1 million that he crowdfunded. Now that money can go to the criminal case to help keep Christo out of prison, as he should be. So look, I don't view this as a win for John at all. I mean, I guess technically he won small sections of the defamation case, but if you look at the entire story, John has just basically ruined his entire life. He's had to retire from politics, and in his resignation speech, he specifically cites the defamation case as something that was incredibly stressful for him and a big reason why he's leaving, something, by the way, that he brought on himself. He's completely destroyed any goodwill that he had in the face of the Australian public. Most people now look at him as some soft-shelled rich wanker that can't take a joke. He's completely destroyed his public reputation. He's also lost his wife, which is not good. I just found that out before recording this video. Dude, it's been a rough year for Mr. John. He's lost his job, he's lost the respect of the people he represents, and his wife. Jeez. Is that who Jordan was fucking at his Airbnb? I'm kidding, John. Don't sue me. I'm kidding. I'm sure that it was Jordan who was getting fucked by your wife. You know, there's a lot of stress with those lawsuits. I'm sure the man could do with some pegging. Meanwhile, on Jordan's side, he's bigger than he's ever been. The man's in the news every single day. More and more young and older Australians now are becoming aware of his content and becoming more politically engaged. I mean, he took out a Nationals representative, like one of the highest officials in New South Wales, resigned and specifically cited Jordan Shanks as a big reason why. So even if he has lost this small section of the defamation case, the rest of it has been dropped. No damages are paid. He's out of pocket, no money at all, because all of the money was crowdfunded. John has had to retire. One of his biggest targets this year has completely just quit politics, which is better than getting an opponent to beat him in an election. The guy just gave up. That's an even better result. So this whole thing really strikes me as, for Jordan, he may have lost a battle, but is absolutely winning the war. And when you have a look at this criminal case now, it doesn't look good for the police at all. We're finding out in court that it appears that they haven't followed their own processes when arresting Christo. They arrested him because of psychological harm, but that assessment was not done by a professional mental health expert. That was just a layman's interpretation by a police officer, has just looked at what John Barilaro being sad and has gone, oh, this kid's hurting him mentally. I'm going to raid his house and arrest him in front of his family. So it's really not looking good for the cops in this criminal case either. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan wins that one too. Christo walks free, and it's just the biggest celebration that's ever been had in Australian political internet history. I think that, you know, even if you do look at this as Jordan losing the defamation case, he's winning the war. He never set out to win cases in court. He wanted to change the country, and that's what the guy's doing. And I look at this stuff and I think it's really cool. So I think that's great. Fuck John for not being able to take a joke. Enjoy retirement, pussy. And I'll see you guys in another video. Subscribe, like, share. Goodbye.
Buy my shit, buy my shirts, buy my merchant, no one gets hurt. Buy my shit, buy my shirts, buy my merchant, no one gets hurt. Buy my shit, buy my shirts, buy my merchant, no one gets hurt. Buy my shit, buy my shirts, buy my merchant, no one gets hurt.